Hey guys, welcome back to Chef Development, and today we are going to be making something truly special. I've been so excited about this video. We're going to be making croissant macaroons. Now I know what you're thinking, there are a million videos on YouTube telling you how to make macaroons, so why on earth would you watch another one? Well, these macaroons, I believe, are truly unique. In fact, I would tentatively say you can't find another macaroon like this one anywhere else. Now, I've been doing my research, and by research I mean Google search, and I can't find a macaroon like this anywhere else. So, this may very well be the first macaroon of its kind. This croissant macaroon doesn't just taste like a croissant, it's made from actual croissants. I managed to make this out of this. Now, as a chef and a cook, being able to create something truly unique is a rare privilege. Often we're emulating or we're inspired by dishes or adapting recipes. When you get the chance to actually create something truly unique and truly different, it is very exciting. So when I created these nut-free croissant macaroons, I knew I was onto something very special. And I knew I just had to document it and film it and show you guys immediately. So I'm gonna stop talking and I'm gonna show you how I did it. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, which of course you don't because nobody does, my dog has more followers than I do. Well, if you did follow me on Instagram, you would see that I've been working very hard on a special croissant recipe. I mean, I can make amazing croissants, but I want to make those sort of Instagram croissants with that amazing cross-section. And I'm almost there, I promise it's coming really soon. But if you want to check out my croissant saga, please go and follow me on Instagram. It would be amazing to see you there. Anyway, this constant croissant recipe testing has left me with a lot of leftover croissants. My friends and family are sick of getting the rejects, and my wife doesn't even want to look at another croissant, so I had to find a creative solution to using up the leftovers. I was storing them in the freezer, I was turning them into breadcrumbs, and this eventually led me to thinking whether I could actually make some macaroons with these breadcrumbs that I had tons of. And after a little bit of tweaking, I managed to make some pretty incredible and absolutely delicious macaroons. So let me take you through the method. Now, I warn you, this recipe is a little machine heavy, but I will include a list of everything that I've used and a full recipe in the description down below. First thing you're going to need is some stale croissants. Now, break them up into large chunks using your hands and spread them out in one layer on a baking sheet. Then stick them into the oven at 140 degrees C and bake them for about 45 minutes until they're really nice and crisp and a really deep, rich golden brown. Once cooked, leave them to cool completely. This shouldn't take much more than half an hour. Once the croissant pieces have cooled, transfer them to a bowl of a food processor and blend them down into fine breadcrumbs. Now, don't forget, you're going to be using these to replace ground almonds in these macaroons, so try and get them to the same sort of fine consistency. Once you've crumbed your croissants, you're not going to need much for this recipe, but you can store the rest in an airtight container or even in the freezer for a later date. Alright, so measure out 95 grams of your croissant crumbs and put them straight into a bowl. Then measure 120 grams of icing sugar into the same bowl, and then you're going to need to blitz these two together to try and get them as fine as you can in order to get that nice smooth top to your macaroons. I've used the liquidizer here as I do find it does a better job than the food processor. But I guess you could use a NutriBullet if you had one, or if you're lucky enough to own a Thermomix or a VitaPrep, then you could use that as well. Blend the croissant crumbs and the icing sugar together for about 20 to 30 seconds until they're well combined and as fine as possible. Then, to ensure your croissant / icing sugar mix is as fine as it can be, you're going to need to pass it through a sieve to remove the larger bits of the croissant crumbs, just like this. You'll probably have quite a bit left over, so don't just throw it away. Blitz it down again using a spice or a coffee grinder to make it as fine as you can. Then pass it through the sieve again, and you should find it all goes through. Repeat this as needed until you've passed everything through the sieve. Once you've got the croissant and icing sugar mix sorted, you can put it to one side and start making the meringue for your macaroons. Okay, so measure out 75 grams of room temperature egg whites. You can use fresh or pasteurized, doesn't really matter, but having them at room temperature will help you get a thicker, better meringue. Add a pinch of salt, 50 grams of sugar to the egg white, and then using an electric whisk, you're going to whip them into a stiff, glossy meringue. Now, don't rush this bit. It's important that you have a really nice, thick, dense meringue, so you're probably looking at whisking this thing for about 5 or 6 minutes. When the meringue is ready, you should be able to turn the bowl upside down without any of the meringue falling out. Normally, I would get my students to hold it above their head, because if you're not confident enough to hold it over your head, then it probably needs to be whisked for longer. Once the meringue is ready, you can fold in the dry ingredients. Now, with normal macaroons, you would add the gel food colouring here, but I like these macaroons to look a natural golden brown, just like the croissants would. So I don't bother adding any food colouring to the mix, but if you want to, now is the time. Now we continue to fold all the dry ingredients into the macaroon mixture until it's at a ribbon stage. Some recipes call for you being able to make an unbroken figure of 8 with the ribbon. Personally, I like to make the shape of a big macaroon in the bowl and see how it spreads out and smooths on top. If it behaves the same way I want my macaroons to when they're piped, then it's ready. After a bit of practice, you'll start to know what you're looking for, but if this is your very first time, then the figure of 8 ribbon method is a pretty good guide. Once it's at the right stage, you can place that macaroon mixture into a piping bag with a 1 centimetre nozzle and pipe circles about 2.5 centimetres in diameter onto a baking sheet lined with parchment paper or silicone mat, just like I have here. You're going to need to work on your piping technique here and do this little pipe and twist action to try and minimise the little peaks and nipples you get on top of the macaroons. These will only ruin the beautiful smooth tops later on. Once all your macaroons are piped, you're going to need to tap the tray lightly to settle the macaroons and help smooth out all the tops of those little nips and peaks we spoke about earlier. I'd recommend using a tea towel underneath the tray so that it doesn't bounce around all over the place or damage your table. Now, the final thing that we need to do with these macaroons is probably the most important bit, and that is to let them rest. This is going to help them develop a skin and keep that lovely smooth top that we're looking for in our macaroons. So leave them to rest for about 30 minutes to an hour. Don't skip this stage, it is really important. While they're resting, it's the perfect time to sort out your filling. I'm just going to make a quick malted chocolate ganache here, bringing the double cream and malt extract to the boil, pouring it over the dark chocolate, leaving it to stand for a minute or so, and then stirring the whole lot together. And then I'll just put it to one side until the macaroons are ready to fill. Once the macaroons have got a good skin on them, you should be able to lightly touch the macaroon tops without them sticking to your finger. Just be gentle when you do this, yeah, because you don't want to be poking your finger right through the middle of your macaroon. Then these macaroons are ready to go into the oven. So cook them at 140 degrees C for about 16 to 18 minutes. You don't want to cook them too quickly or they will rise up and collapse way too fast and you won't get that nice foot at the bottom of them. Once the macaroons are cooked, leave them on the baking sheet to cool and firm up a little bit, and then when they're ready, transfer them to a wire rack and let them cool completely. Then it's time to match up your macaroons. Now, there will always be a slight variation in sizes, so this is the best way to ensure your finished macaroons look perfect. And it gives you a chance to sort through them and discard any with some rough tops or that happen to be a little bit misshaped, just like these ones that I did on purpose to show you. Promise. Once all your macaroon shells are matched up, they are ready to fill. So pipe a small amount of your filling into just 1/2 of the macaroon shells and gently sandwich with the other shell, pressing until the filling just comes to the edge, but don't be shy with that filling because there's nothing worse than a macaroon that's tight on the filling. If you're feeling particularly fancy, you can always sprinkle a few of those toasted croissant crumbs over the filling just before sandwiching. I think you'll agree, it looks pretty awesome. And that's it really. That's how we can turn these leftover croissants into a totally unique macaroon that doesn't just look incredible, but tastes f***ing amazing. And could be the very first of its kind. Now, I believe this croissant macaroon is a complete game changer. And it got me thinking, if you can make macaroons out of croissants, then what else can you make them out of? Brioche, puff pastry, sourdough, cereal. I mean, the list goes on. Who knows? Who knows what you could do? But the possibilities are endless. All I know is that the croissant macaroon could be the very first of its kind, and I am very proud that I was able to create it. And another lesson to take away from this is don't be afraid to try new things. You never know what you might discover. So please give this recipe a try and let me know what you think. Now, if you haven't made macaroons before, you might find the first couple of goes a little bit tricky, but persevere and in no time you'll have these gorgeous little macaroons. So if you've never seen a croissant macaron before, hit that like button and let me know. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, then why not hit that subscribe button as well. You can also hit that tricky little bell for notifications. I'm going to think about what else I can turn into macaroons. I will see you next week.